All right, cool. I'll be right back. So
I didn't hear what you said, but that'll work. All righty, and there we go. Hey there, hi there, ho there, out in Spray Wash land. Ray will be joining me back in just a minute. He had to run off for a very, very brief moment. And, today we're just going to talk about all kinds of stuff that's going out there in the social media land and try to stay away from some of the drama that's going on, all that kind of stuff, but more just talk about just different things that has been out there in different, you know, some of it's the electrical thing that was posted. So we wanted to talk about some of that kind of stuff because a lot of misinformation goes around these social media groups. We all know that, and who we learn it from and all that kind of fun stuff. So we just want to talk a little bit about that. But I am trying to work on getting an email done and out. I'd hoped to have it done earlier today, but my creative juices just weren't floating, and I don't know why, but they weren't. So I'll try to get that done either this evening or tomorrow. But some things about the upcoming huge convention, and because we are going to be raising the prices for the classes, and I want to get all that out before any of that, before the pricing actually goes up. So again, Ray will be joining me here in just a second. So who do we got in here? We got Little's Pressure Washing. Everyone hit the like button as they come in and chat and share the stream. Absolutely. Y'all, we very rarely ever ask for that. And, I should more often, Ray should more often, but man, if y'all can hit that like button, the thumbs up button, and the share button, and the subscribe button, depending on where you're listening to us from, and, all that kind of fun stuff, we really would appreciate the love if you would. Servant is in here. Love that support, Barry. And then Rusty is in here. What's up, gentlemen? And Doug. Yeah, I see how you are. There you go. And Mr. Jacob is in here. How I have the greatest hair of all, which is, just because when I'm dealing with him, see, I get it right. Ray doesn't. I get it right. I know that it's over there, even though on my screen, it's actually over there. But I think you could actually reverse the screen, Ray. Yeah. There you go. So
here we go.
There you go. To start with, yeah, but see, it's still the opposite. If I point this way, that's not where you are on my screen. You're actually that way. And if
that's funny.
Over, it still just messes it all up. Anyhow, so one of the things that started this whole news and social media week was that whole electrical thing that was going on. And a lot of comments that were in there, I saw that guys talking about I had one guy was saying he had problems after he started taping them, never had problems until then. One of the things he said, which I agree with, is that the surfactants that are being made are making water wetter.
Yeah.
Been said. And so, it's not, it also depends on, it's not just taping up receptacles, right? It's also the type of tape, how you tape.
No, it's not.
How you tape.
Yep.
All those different things. And
are you taping it in lap sidings like the proper way, or are you making it a receptacle to hold the water
in.
Into it? So it could be that way,
Absolutely. And
I
off. Mm-hmm.
And ironically, I heard of. So I had a washer, and people that are great customers, I'm happy to go around and consult with them on things, and even guys not in my local market, we do, consulting for pro members and we've always, included that as a service. But I went by and took a guy here in Tallahassee, and he asked me to come by and look. It was about a 7-8 story building. And literally the first thing, whenever I met him over there, and I met him behind the building, between the garage and there, and the electrical service is right there beside where I parked. And before I said anything else, those have got to be covered. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, there's even a little shed roof over all these meter boxes and panels, coming in for the main electrical service. I said, I don't care. I said, I would literally go and take plastic over that metal shed roof and wrap off that whole area to make sure nothing gets on there, because they just did not look great to me. And as I've told him, you're up here 8 stories up in a lift. You're spraying down on this, expecting a little 2-foot shed roof to keep this stuff. And these are meters that are going, meters and boxes that are literally going from 6 foot down to the ground out there. I said a 2-foot shed roof that's 6 foot wide, maybe 8 foot wide, is not going to keep splash off of these things. It's just easy enough to take a whole piece of plastic, tape off that whole area, shove it up under the shingles, and call it good.
Some people say we're nuts for that, but
yeah. And he called me today, and he said the guy that got the contract on there that wound up washing that building blew 2 of those meters.
Wow.
And they were $15,000 a piece.
Wow.
The job was $12,000.
And that's the thing. Like, sometimes you get away with not taping certain things up. Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
And here's the thing, but a lot of that boils down to the inspection side of it, right?
Yeah.
I know of a building, a commercial building, obviously metal building, and it's got 3-phase power going to it. And if you stand back and you look at it, everything kind of looks pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you get up and you start looking at it, I don't know if those of you don't know like about 3-phase power, and not even just 3-phase power, but a lot of on some of the commercial buildings, they'll have a I'm going to call it a box, a junction box. And that junction box is, say, I'm going to make up numbers, but let's say that junction box is anywhere between 3 foot and 6 foot long. Like, look at your keyboard, Ray. It's the shape of the keyboard, right? Not the keys and all that, but right. It'll be like 3 to 6 foot long, and it'll only be like, say, 6-8 inches tall, 6-8 inches wide, right? Just enough to house all of those wires that are coming in, and then they'll make connections with bolts and all that kind of stuff. So inside,
and a lot of times it's that far off the ground, and something else on there, Doug. If you ever go and look under it, a lot of times that bottom is rusted out on it.
Absolutely, that's where I was going. Ray, did you and I talk about this before this show started?
No,
we did not.
No.
And we're saying the exact same thing. That thing was rusted out completely on the bottom. That is common. That happens because some of it is because water gets inside and it can't get out to a certain degree. And so it sits there, or it sits on there on the flat side of it. And then it causes that to rust out. Now you go spraying, and if you're not careful and you hit up underneath, or it's close to the ground and it gets that splash back up and it just stays wet. Where do they, if you think about this too, where do they put most electrical meters and things and trash cans and all that? They put them on the sides of the building that people don't see, which is typically the shaded side of the building. It never dries out. There's where you get rust and all that.
It's true. It's absolutely true, and I've blown the meter off the side of a building before. I mean, I know what it is. It's where we sit here and we talk about, that's even worse. You know what? They talk about water being bad, but good Lord, that dihydrogen monoxide is absolutely awful.
Right.
And then you put a little soap and surfactants in that, and again, keep in mind, guys, when we talk about this, soap does make water wetter. And bleach, salt water, is more conductive than regular water.
Mm-hmm.
And you take that into account where you're spraying stuff, and then you may have an outlet that's out in the water, that's out in the elements every day, and gets rained on in every good storm, and it never blows. But now we're adding a surfactant to the water that we're coating it on there, and we may be hitting it at just the right little angle, and we're spraying typically a more conductive type water on there, and guess what? Bad stuff winds up happening on this. And somebody had made, I've been off Facebook for like 30 days, and it has been absolutely wonderful. I started getting back on. I haven't been on Facebook in any substantive part since I got back from Australia. And not a planned exit, and just kind of felt good to not be there. And I didn't feel the need to go on there and say, hey, I'm taking a break from Facebook. It's just, I didn't know how long I'd do it. I've just enjoyed it, but I'm going to get back on here now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, somebody's made comments on these threads about, well, that's the electrician's fault. That's the electrician's fault. Well, you know what? I'm dealing with those two cases that I have right here, and I mean,
can you
right here? I mean that's a service for discovery. On this one of the court cases, and the state that one is in, it's a shared liability state. And I'm not a lawyer, don't profess to be, but as it's explained to me, that even if the house was wired incorrectly, even if that GFI was completely installed wrong, it doesn't matter if you have 1% at fault or 99% at fault, you now have shared liability on doing this. So so that's why a lot of times we say it's the contractor's fault. Whatever contractor is the last guy
last is a good rule.
What's that?
I said whoever touched it last is a good rule to think, to consider, to think about.
Yeah, it really is, so you better make sure. And, one of the things we talk about, plant and property, what do all these little weatherproof covers, wind up saying in the small print, Doug?
Mm-hmm.
It says must be caulked, for complete.
Yeah, add sealant if it's an uneven surface.
Yeah. Well, not even uneven. I mean, it just says, it needs to be caulked in the one, but definitely in the unevens. And
I think some of them say uneven surface if the surface is not or maybe it says if it's not a flat, smooth surface, something to that nature. I'd have to go back.
And again, I don't know a lot of electricians that carry around tubes of caulk, and I've hung around a lot of them and didn't see that happen a great deal. But and another thing, I mean, it hit it home again. I had a brand new customer come in today, and he's a couple hours north of me. Nice guy. We really hit it off, and we were talking, and so he bought quite a few things, and then he's asking questions, and he's very, and by things that he's saying, I could tell he had been really absorbing a lot of information from Facebook and YouTube. And I said, listen, I'm not trying to, rain on your parade, anything like this. I said, but please, please, please take what you get there just as a grain, with just a grain of salt, because horrible bad information is given on those places. And I told him, a couple of people that sell success packages and equipment, told them their stories about, they really haven't run the size companies they lead you to believe. And a lot of these guys are just, trying to get you a link to go buy, Amazon and stuff like that. And he didn't, understand that because they're not marketing themselves as that. I mean, they say, they lead you to believe they've had $1 million businesses, where most of them, have not. But we further got into this thing, and he said, I heard on TPO roofs, you're not supposed to use a pressure washer on a TPO roof. And I'm like, where did you hear that at? He said, online, I could find the video on there, because I feel like I know how to
misinformation.
And I said, and literally, because I have my computer here at the sales counter, and I said, no, let me pull this up. God, TJ, that is so true right there. BS is the easiest product to sell. Oh my God. That's my new favorite thing. Let's see here. So let me figure out how to do let me share my screen here.
Sell, right?
It sure is.
So I'm wondering who is that Facebook user that says, yo, what are we giving away today?
I don't know.
That's who I want to know. And actually, that's a good segue into our class at the huge convention. I was trying to get them all on the screen sharing at the same time, but I couldn't get them all there.
I mean,
who did that? Whoever. So the contractor that allowed that to happen should be taken out back and shot.
Yes, he should. And so, but I pulled this up. This is the thing down here. That's the thing that you were talking about. That's that three-phase power box that you're talking about right down there. And bad stuff. And we use this in our
property.
class, this exact same series of pictures right here. And I did this. I mean, and we weren't even spraying the meter. I was spraying up high right here whenever this happened. I mean, we were spraying the top part of the building, and it ran down, and they literally found a breach inside of this, and it ran down the backside, and water got into, this is the hole right here. You can see where water got into that hole and just splashed on the wires just perfectly,
That's going to happen to, I mean, lots of contractors over time, even, doing the best job that you can. And a lot of times on these old buildings like this one, the way they're caulked and then the way they're painted, usually these things are actually sealed fairly good a lot of times.
Pretty good,
and so this because of the caulk, it's because of the years of excess paint buildup. Right. Because they just spray the whole thing, right? Puts a good seal on
this. I mean, this is 2021, so this happened pretty early into my, this is, this is a year and 2 months into my washing career right here. And yeah, I mean, but it taught me, that's where that Lexel came into play, Doug, because we would sit there and look at the top of these boxes. Now, I may not be taping off the whole box on there, but I'm damn well looking at this top edge nowadays. Right. And maybe running a bead of caulk along in there. I'm going to make sure this box is fully, not sealed, but isn't flopping open like on here. And I'm going to check all these boxes and make sure because these are going to be sealed by the electric company. But I'm going to make sure all of these breaker boxes are sealed up real good in here. And I'm not going to go, direct pressure. Yeah, Ryan, exactly. Hey, Anthony, hope you're doing well tonight, bud. Definitely. Should have turned the meter off before I showed up to do the job. Is this a customer's fault or mine?
and that's one of the things that we see posted online a lot. Well, you should have the power shut off to the house or the building before you ever start your wash. Right. I mean, when I see stuff like that, I just want to smack myself upside the head. Like I should have had a V8. Why if a washer came to my house and said, well, you're going to have to shut off all the power to your house before I'll wash it, I'm going to get another contractor. I mean, that doesn't even make sense to me that you would do that. And so what? If you don't protect things correctly, you get water inside all the receptacles, and then you flip the breaker back on, or you pull them. First of all, if they're going to come out and pull the meter, that's an even more insane thing that I've seen. But if I flip the breaker back on and there's water in the receptacle, it's still going to blow. So what's the point? It doesn't make sense to do that.
Right. And this isn't just a shameless plug of take plant and property and talk to people. I mean, this is really what Doug and I have always wanted you to do. Mm-hmm. Is please, guys, you're a professional. You have got more resources now in 2023 than you and I ever had. GAF didn't have stuff like this whenever we first started out there,
And some of the stuff they had has already changed.
Correct. Oh, I mean, look at Trex. Trex decking has 3 different generations on there at this point. Which ones are you getting? But and the guy was just kind of amazed whenever I sat there and I said, so you're telling me that you see training that says you're not allowed to use high pressure on, you can only soft wash. You can only soft wash TPO roofing. And I said, that's absolutely incorrect information. So GAF, the largest manufacturer of that, I mean, it's coming in here, use low pressure power washer, 2000 PSI or lower to clean and rinse off the top layer of dust and dirt. I mean, whenever we talk about soft washing, 2000 PSI is not low pressure.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. So just to have the discussion, what do you consider to be low pressure, Ray?
Right. I consider that, well, I really consider low pressure less than 200 PSI, but we define it, it says 600 on.
Yeah. And I say anything under 300, you say anything under 200. We're so close in that number to begin with, because that's low pressure. And even to me at 300 PSI, that's still a good amount of pressure. 100 PSI is plenty. Is a good amount of pressure.
If you don't know the exact, if you don't know exact, the exact, here's another one for GAF's Everguard. Again, 2000 PSI. If you don't know the exact manufacturer of it, then get in here and look at the main company, at the largest one, GAF. I mean, I think that's a default for everybody. We found the ones for Mulehide in here. We found, a few different ones. And whenever I was showing him, and he kind of got it, and I was like, so I'm not saying that we have all the answers for you at all, but please, please, please get out there and use the stuff at your disposal. If you don't know what the specs say, get out there and find what the specs say. If you don't know it, it's at your fingertips.
And not only that, but I'll go one step further and say, if you're going to be doing work for a client, right, and you go up and you say, well, Doug and Ray said on their live that GAF said this. Okay, that would be stupid as well, right?
Right.
You go and you grab that document, which some of those are in the pro library, but you should be able to go, and when they say, hey, this is made by, and I'm not just talking about roofing. I don't care if it's siding. I don't care if it's concrete, whatever it is. You can go to that manufacturer's website and get that information. And if they don't have it on there, send them an email. But you have to remember what you're going to get in response most of the time if you go down that road is a lot of the same thing. They're going to say, oh, low pressure, warm or mild, warm water, mild detergent, that kind of, they're going to say, stay away from bleach. Even their website will say, stay away from, no bleach is to be used.
Right.
And then you email them and you say, okay, I saw on your website where it says don't use bleach, but I see mildew growing and I see a fungus growing. What should I do? I cannot tell you how many times we've seen this where they email back and say, in that instance, if you're dealing with a mildew or a fungus or an algae, go ahead and use, 1 part water and 2 parts bleach, excuse me, I said that backwards. 1 part bleach and 2 parts water. They'll say that and they'll send it back to you. Now you've got something to go with. Because if you do it the other way, you send it to them, they're going to basically ban you from using any kind of bleach a lot of times, which makes it difficult to get the job and keep your butt out of trouble, really.
Right. I mean, this is one of the things where, but you sound so much more intelligent than whenever you actually can get out there and start quoting.
When you sending them those documents.
What's that?
And sending them those documents.
Yeah.
Is my mic not working very well today, Ray?
No, you stutter every now and then. Not you, but So I think it's probably more my connection than it is your.
Yeah, because you're cutting in and out sometimes.
Yeah, and I think yours doing the same thing. So, but again, the I'm trying to find this.
So I'd like to know who the Facebook user is here. Most time we figure it out, but I don't know who this one is. But even if they're caulked, we're still taping. Weatherproof does not mean waterproof. Coming from the electrical background for 33 years, we've had very little issues that were believed to be our fault. Already an existing condition, but no one can see the existing condition unless it's exposed. Very, very true. And this is where we talk a lot about, inspecting the job before you start the job, getting pictures, all that kind of thing, being prepared for that. Because, and a lot of times I just had this conversation with somebody else where, once you start, oh, that's Todd, great. Once you start cleaning, that's when you expose stuff, right? Like sometimes you'll just have so much nastiness on there and then you clean it off and there's rust behind it. And that wasn't part of the job, but maybe the customer wants it. So you have to watch that. And that's where we discuss a lot of times about what's hidden behind that we can't see. It's there. Yeah. And that's been Todd, by the way. I guess you saw that.
Right. Yeah.
I kind of suspected when he talked about the 33 years and all that.
And just because if you really want to get into,
I think we clicked at the same time.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's the nice thing about being off of how much is this project going to cost me? Hold my beer. Let me ask Facebook. That's amazing. I love that.
That's got to be the best comment ever.
Yeah. You know, Ryan made the comment up here too. Never expect the client to know how to turn anything off, prep anything, know stuff about that's already wrong on the property or grandfathered in. Pre-inspect, make customer aware issues, and protect. 100%. How many people have ever shown up to a house and the customer goes and says, hey, don't worry about that. I have some daylilies. I went ahead and bagged the daylilies because I didn't want you to get blown.
Oh, I hate that.
On it, and you go out there and they have put a freaking black hefty bag on their daylilies in the middle of the summer, and it's just like, dude, you've killed these. You have literally hot boxed your thing. So no, what is the new UAM? I'll bite. I gotta hear it. So
I don't think it's the. I think it's the other. I think it's the other drama. I don't think it's the U. Maybe it is the U, but I don't know. I'm not biting. I don't care. If it's the other thing that I believe that it's about, then there was a comment made about somebody saying something about what was it, Ray? Somebody had made a comment about giving away like a house wash with a roof cleaning. I went in and I made the comment. I didn't even know who all this was about at the time, and I really don't care. But for me, that's just a bad business practice to give away an entire house wash with the roof clean. Now, that being said, there's a lot of things that go in with that. I don't know what's surrounding that, but to me, that's just something I would never personally do. Other than that, I don't think, I don't care about the drama. I don't want to get into drama and just done with it.
You know, one of the things that I was one of the things that I wanted to look at this thing I'm looking for over here, and I know it's in Pro, but you know, it was for the James Mansfield roofing on there, where I had an exchange with the one of the product engineers over there because of and they said it's going, you know, no bleach on there. Sodium metasilicate is the cleaner. No bleach. And so I talked to the one of the product engineers on there, and he literally gave us permission to use bleach whenever I explained to him how we used bleach on there. He said, wow, that's absolutely fine, that we're going to, you know, we're going to rinse it. We're going to take good care of it. We're not going to go crazy and use, because a lot of these people have stopped bleach as a cleaning issue because of poor usage.
Well, their knowledge of the poor usage, their knowledge of damage. It's the same thing with pressure washing, right? Pressure washing had gotten a bad, you know, a black eye because pressure washing can cause a lot of damage. Pressure washing can be the right way to do stuff. It just has to be in the hands of the right person. And it's the same thing with bleach and everything else. And how many times, Ray, have we seen where I have a customer that says not to use bleach, and you know, a lot of times they've got misinformation, or they you know, very rarely is it I want to say, quote unquote, legitimate reason where they have a chemical allergy, or they you know, some other reason that they don't want the bleach to be used. And it then becomes about educating them on the right way. I have had that happen in several instances where I then educate the customer. I still don't want bleach used. Okay, great. Well, you've got your choice between doing it this way, which is with bleach, and it's $2, or you can do it this way that I have no idea, you know, because I'll revert to pressure. So let's say I say it's a soft wash using bleach, it's $2. If I go to pressure washing, which is going to take a lot longer, it's not going to work as well, and that's going to be $20. And then if I got to go with this other product that I have no idea that you're handing me, I'll do it that way, lady. I'm not guaranteeing any results. I'm not nothing like that. And it's $2,000, right? So, and yes, $2, I'm blowing away the $99 guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I mean, it's all, but you know, you talk don't be afraid to reach out to a product engineer and say, this is our plan on doing this. This is what, we wind up, this is how we're going to do this.
So yes, going back to Todd's question about what's free at the huge convention, there's going to be several things. For those people that buy the all-in ticket, there's going to be several drawings for them. I think this is the single braided hose. There's only 5 of these being given away. And then there's, I believe it's, don't quote me on this, there's 15 Kevlar hoses that are being given away. And then there's, 2 hose reels, and Power Wash Store is giving away some stuff. And so all of this is only for those that go all in at the spray wash classes, get entered into the drawing. You'll have a high chance of winning. We're going to be giving away quite a few. So just throwing it out there.
You got that link for them.
My shameless plug, right?
You got the link on there to sign up. Shameless plug, but it's okay. You got the link for them to sign up at that?
I'll grab it real quick. I wasn't prepared for that question this morning, or today. So I was, but I'm not.
So right here,
not.
And this was absolutely amazing. And I was so, one of my proudest achievements right here. Share screen, entire screen right here. And I don't know if you can use it, but this is a product. So this is from Jeff Caldwell, specialist with roofing systems from Johns Manville, a Berkshire Hathaway company, very large manufacturer of TPO roofs. And he gave me this TPO membrane information, but it says, please see attached. The letter mentions no bleach, but as we discussed, it can be approved so long as less than 50% concentrate and the solution doesn't exceed 125 degrees Fahrenheit. So on the National High Magnetic Field Laboratory, there's 2 of them in the world, Los Alamos, New Mexico, and here in Tallahassee, Florida. Their research divisions, by talking to the project engineer, I got literally them bumping their own requirements. They bumped their own requirements so that we could clean it our way. Pretty cool,
Mm-hmm.
But don't be afraid to reach out to these product engineers. But whenever you reach out to the product engineers, you better know what you're talking about. You better understand that you need to explain how you're going to wash this. You need to explain how you're going to care for things. You need to understand that you know a little bit about bleach. These are all such very important things to do.
Here's the Kevlar braided hose. I'm going to stick them all in very slowly.
Fancy.
Yeah. I think it's 15 of these that are being given away. This is by Bluebird Industries, by the way.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually sitting here putting our finishing touches on the oh goodness, our HOA class that we're going to be doing, Doug, where we've also got, Bo Giuseppe. I think we sat there and we started adding up, and between your company, my company, and Bo's company, we've literally done tens of thousands of doors in HOA property. So
it's next to impossible to actually come up with an actual number because it's so many.
Right.
Especially some of these places that you do. I mean, you might have 100 doors just in that community, if not more. And let me back up, because that's not even true, right? So if you look at some of these places might have 3 doors just per home. So depending on, we're talking about units though, basically.
Mm-hmm. But something like this, that's actually, believe it or not, that's an HOA right there. Or it's technically a COA, which falls under the same auspices of it, and it's a condo owners association on there. We're going to talk about working on things like this, and then we'll also talk about working on a row of townhouses and then a business park and just absolute craziness. How do we, and so, we did the roof on that project and it cleaned up just real nice there. That was a fun one. But the little hints and tips and, something like this, what's the worst thing about a project like this is parking.
Yeah.
I mean, you're literally going to be in a garage and trying to find a place to put your equipment, unless you're actually going to go out there and block streets and things, because you can't really block public sidewalks that much. You can't really,
some towns, depending on where you're at. I mean,
yeah,
that you may even need a permit, because in some areas, like New Orleans is a great example. The streets are so narrow. They're literally just like one vehicle down that road, period. So if you park on that street, you're blocking off the entire traffic, and you might have to get a permit in order to reroute and direct traffic and do stuff and all that. So all these things have to be taken into consideration when you're doing that.
I'll never forget a bank that I was doing, and it was on Highway US 90. And I was talking to, and we were doing the roof on this 4 or 5 story bank, tile roof, and an 85-foot lift out there. And so I'm moving, and they just happened to be doing some road work on there as well. I'm going in and moving the cones to get the lift in and out, and I put it back. And a guy would come over and he'd follow me around and move the cones back. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, I got to move your cones. I said, I see you moving them. I said, I promise I'll put them back. I won't leave. And he's like, no. He's like, no, you get it. I get it. You got to move the lift. He said, it's just working out. We had this lane blocked off. He said, but under US DOT rules, if these cones aren't exactly, and he told me the measurements, I should know them, I don't, exactly blank apart, I could get fined for every one, because I'm in charge of blocking this roadway off, with Bob's barricade. And if I don't have them right, I could literally get a fine for not having these cones exactly 30 inches apart or 42 inches, whatever the number was on there. And he took his job really, really seriously out there. So
yeah, there's not only and this is stuff that we'll be talking about at the convention, but there's not only how far apart you have to have certain types of cones, even triangles on your truck. We've talked about that before, and how they have to be even placed. If your truck is going down the road, I don't think we're going to cover this and that, but the triangles that you have to have in your truck and how they have to be placed if you're pulled over on the side of the road. I just saw a semi, I think it was yesterday, and he had his 3 triangles out, but he had one behind his truck, one on the side of his truck, and one in front of his truck. And I'm like, man, a state trooper pulls up on you, you are so getting a ticket, getting a ticket. That is so not the way that goes.
Well, Tim and I, we were over in Panama City to do a church steeple, and it was great because he had just taken his box of triangles out, and we had 6 cones on the back of his flatbed. He took his cones out, or took his safety triangles out, because he had 6 cones on there. And we got pulled by a state trooper who had actually come from the DOT side whenever they made them. He was a compliance officer, because Florida merged the two. And the man wrote Tim a warning for not having any triangles on there. And our point was, we were really nice and really, respectful. We said, but officer, we have 6 cones, 6 24-inch cones on the back of this truck. Why won't those suffice? He's like, because the law says you're going to have reflective triangles. While those are 24-inch cones, they're not the reflective DOT cones. He said, but maybe I could let you slide if they were the 36-inch DOT reflective cones. He said, but they're not reflective, and the law doesn't. You're going to have cones. The law says you're going to have the triangles on there. So, hey, Queensland,
Australia.
Michael, how are you doing tonight, bud? Good to see you.
Happy birthday, Michael.
and one of the things I was kind of laughing about, Doug, as I'm doing this class and putting the finishing touches on it, you know, and there's so many different types of HOAs and COAs, and people, tend to lump it all into, it's just if it's a bunch of condos and it's a HOA, or if I get, if I get in with the HOA, I'm going to get all the houses in there. Well, it's not necessarily true. You may have an HOA that does only the driveways. You may have an HOA that does nothing but the signage. You may have an HOA that does everything in there. You just never really know until you start. You can't make these assumptions. And again, it's why we go and we ask these important questions on here to find out the answer. But one of my favorite ones that I always had, place that we had called on, and let me share this. So this is an office park. There's one tenant in this office park, and it's Budweiser. This is a Budweiser distributor right in here. This winds up being about 5 miles of curbs here.
Curbs and gutters.
Curbs and gutters. But guess what? So it's a property owners association, and there's how they're listed at. But wound up making the call and getting that, and the lady was basically like, I've got a budget that I've got to spend.
Have to spend. That's the key.
We assess the landowners in here. We've got a war chest for improvements and repairs. There's nothing to be repaired out here, and we haven't cleaned this thing since we've built it. We might as well go ahead and clean the sign, clean the curbs. And I'm like, okay, what do you want? Like, a couple hundred? She's like, no, clean all the curbs. This was an amazing project for us to do, because it wound up being 5 miles of curbs. And then not only did we get to do the 5 miles of curbs, but then I picked up the only tenant in the park from them seeing us work out there. We did the Budweiser bottling plant, or the Budweiser distributor plant there. And they were a long-term client. I think I wound up doing them 4 or 5 times over the course of my life in there. And then to make things even to really put the icing on the cake, while I was there, called on the Northwest Florida Water Management District and wound up cleaning their facilities as well. So how did you land those? I mean, you got off your butt and you went and approached them, right? I mean, you got the Budweiser. Got off my butt, yeah. Probably Tanya got off her butt.
It's just that you got to go and you have to actually go out, get off your butt, and get work. A lot of times,
but in all, and I'm going to be completely boldly honest here. This wasn't. We didn't call on this office park. Tanya had called on the manager of that office park, who happened to be a POA, COA, HOA type manager that managed several of those. And that was just one of the ones, because very rarely, if it's a commercial agent or a real estate agent or a commercial entity that's managing things like this, very rarely are they just going to have one project is all they're managing. They're typically going to be managing several different projects.
And not only that, they also know other project managers.
Correct. And that's who we need to focus on. And what we're going to talk about, a lot of that class is, how do we get to those people? Because they're the people that can send you the most amount of business out there.
You also have to remember that sometimes these people hop jobs, but they don't typically hop that far away from where they already are. And what I mean by that, they stay generally in the same realm of work. We're creatures of habit. Right. We get comfortable in whatever it is that we're doing, and we don't like to necessarily change fields. That's not necessarily true when you're younger, right? But as you get older, especially, and if you've been doing property management for 10 years and you quit, I mean, you've had, 5 different jobs and they're all in that realm. That's naturally where you're going to go again, right? You're naturally going to go to another property management position. And if it's in the same area, guess what? You're bringing your Rolodex with you. If they know you and they like you, because who do people buy from? People they know, people they like, and people they trust.
Yep.
And that's your
Well,
job to
happy
become that person.
belated, Michael. Happy belated birthday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No, absolutely, Doug. I mean, Petra people are going to, they stay in the same field so many times, especially if they were good at what they did.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then it spreads.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rich Kelly, they came up today, and we had a long discussion about our thing last week with the drones out there.
Mm-hmm.
And today, sitting there, and he's a naysayer.
A naysayer of the drones.
He's a naysayer.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling
just
you,
for using drones with cleaning and just of potential horrible catastrophe, bad things that could happen, and it's only going to take. And Rich comes from a pilot's life, and Rich is saying, hey, somebody's going to screw something up bad here, and it's only going to take one bad thing to happen here, and some get hurt, and a 40-pound drone and 50 pounds of hose fall out of the sky on somebody.
So I agree and I disagree. And the reason that I agree and I disagree is because think about the washing industry. Think about those 2 lawsuits right now, right? I mean, I'm guaranteeing you that there's going to be more lawsuits out there than we know of, right? And not only that, but when you look at those, you look at some of those, and they're not necessarily made mainstream. Not a whole bunch of people are talking about it. I could see it with drones where, a drone crashes, and even if it just crashes in somebody's yard, if it's a slow day for the media, I could see them picking it up, right? But especially if it turns out to be like a big, say it's a 7-story hotel and it crashes down and hits the mezzanine or whatever, and there's people there, and somebody gets it on video and it spreads virally and that kind of thing. Yeah, I could definitely see some new rules and new regulations coming out, and all kinds of stuff happening.
I don't believe this is in America just because of. I don't think this was in America just because of the type of vehicles that are in here. But watch, so. All right, cut. Flying, lift off, and wham! let me show you that one more time in case you missed it. And wham!
Oh, wow. Well, let me ask you this: whose fault was that? Well, yeah, that's got to be China or something, because you can.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean that's got to be the I mean, but yeah, obviously the drone operator's fault. I mean, there's
absolutely.
Yeah,
there's no question about. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, that wouldn't happen in the United States anyhow, because there'd have to be. Well, it could happen if it's done, but there's rules and regulations. You wouldn't be allowed to just sit out in the middle of the highway like that and take off without.
Yeah, because everybody follows rules and regulations.
Yeah.
I mean, just like those rules and regulations against murder and robbery and stuff too. Everybody follows those, But it could be somebody innocently, just as innocent as that, trying to do something like that, and then that sets the crap storm of regulation. Off that changes everything for everybody. Unfortunately.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and we've been talking about the different regulations and stuff that are out there, and I see more coming, but and I do think that will lessen the field, just because it'll be the barrier to get into and be able to maintain your pilot's license will probably get a little bit more difficult in the next few years. And it's not like something like where you just take a test one time and then you're good to go. It'll probably be an ongoing thing where every year to 2 years, and you've got to know all the new regulations and all this kind of stuff. So it's not just going out there and flying your drone.
Agreed.
So there you go.
Totally agreed.
What else has happened in the world of social media this week? It's funny when
I don't know. I got a whole bunch of catching up to do. So I saw that drone thing this week though, and I was like, boy, that's the icing on the cake for last week's.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, drones are operated by radio signals that can be interfered with by competing devices on the same frequency, and vice versa. Too many things to go wrong in pedestrian areas. Yeah.
Well, that's why there's certain, like, you're not supposed to fly over people, and and I don't know the rules and all that kind of stuff, but there's
Right.
different rules in there that are supposed to prevent. But that's just like, I mean, we could get into a whole political discussion here that we're not going to do. But I mean, everything is in the hands of the operator, right? You take that to the Second Amendment thing and banning guns and all that. The guns aren't killing people. It's the hands that are in them. It's the same thing with the drones. The drones aren't going in the wrong place. It's the person who's operating the drone that's taking it into the wrong place. It doesn't have a mind of its own to do whatever it wants. Now with AI coming out, there are things that they're doing in the AI world where, that may not be true with drones, where they are doing it on their own, kind of a thing. But that's because they were programmed to do it.
True. But I mean, and just doing so. Prime example though. I was out. So after watching the thing with the drone last week, I went and played with my, I pulled out my DJI after our show last week. So I hadn't had that DJI out in probably 6 months or so. I'm just, okay, I'm going to mess with it here, play with it some. And I went and swapped the props out. I was like, these props look kind of cruddy and stuff. Well, I swapped 4 of them out perfectly. And then I 3 of them out perfectly. I guess I missed the lockdown on the 4th one. And that thing got about 2 foot off the ground. And next thing you know, I started getting a heck of a wobble. And I'm like, oh, just get down, pushed it down to bring it back down. And whenever I did, that one prop flew up. I mean, and it went, I heard it go tink whenever it landed in the bed of my truck about 30 foot away. So, again, user error, and all the rules in the world can't always, one, solve mechanical error, and 2, dumb guy error right there who didn't put the prop on, to the final locking area on there. So,
and Michael, they actually already have, believe it or not, they have and actually, now that you're saying, I saw one recently even where it's like a washbot, where they have like you put a tether on each corner of the building, and then I think one in the center, and then tether, anchor it to the ground, and you can move that washbot, basically anywhere you want, going all the way up the side of this building. They've had those. I was just talking with somebody else about that last week, I think, something like that. After the drone conversation, I talked to somebody about that, and we talked about that machine. I don't think it was that same one that I saw, but that one there. And we also talked about wall printers and all kinds of stuff. But that stuff's already out there, and been out there for a little while.
Oh man, who was the guy from Terminator that they tried to kill in Terminator 2? Miles, the guy who was he was the computer programmer. That created the original code that Aerodyne.
Trying to go back and kill him.
Miles, and they went back, and Sarah Connor went back to go kill him, and said that would stop all the bad stuff happening on there, but it didn't, because he did die. But
but it still happened.
Absolutely.
But
that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the beginnings of this of AI, and remember, it did not end well for humankind then either.
The worst part about it is, if you look at a lot of the old movies and the things that they had in them, they do kind of come true, to a certain degree. So you wonder, and you're like,
Idiocracy. Idiocracy.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that one?
I don't think I have, actually.
Idiocracy.
I remember the name, but I don't think
it's got Luke Owen in it, or Luke Wilson, Owen Wilson's brother, on there. Mm-hmm. And the premise of it is, so the intelligent people are working hard and but what happens is they don't breed because they wind up dying off. Sit there, you get a good job, you want to provide well, but you stress yourself out, you die of a heart attack at 30, 35 years old before you really grow a family. Whereas you get the poor, dumb welfare schlub that sits around the single wide all day that just breeds and breeds and breeds. So 500 years later in America, we've just dumbed down society so much that the world is literally inhabited by morons. Nobody knows how to pick.
Was that movie done 500 years ago?
No, that movie was done. It was about, I guess, probably a 15, 20-year-old movie now. But
you missed my joke. That's all.
That streets littered with trash.
No, with morons.
Yeah. No. But I mean, that's where I'm going. This is where I'm going with this, though. The president of the United States is a porn star. And he's got, big medallions around his thing that say Prez, I mean, it's hilarious. But, the running joke is Idiocracy was supposed to be a comedy, not a documentary, because it literally feels what's happening in the world
it
nowadays.
Feels like it's real life right now. That's for sure.
Yeah. And there's the one guy, Luke Wilson, he's kind of a lovable just screw up and a pretty much a moron. Well, he goes into the future 500 years and he's the smartest guy in America. I mean, he's the smartest guy in the world because the world has become so dumbed down.
No.
Yeah.
I think we're at least halfway there. I mean, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Andromeda Strain, Soylent Green. Yeah.
Too much.
Mm-hmm.
That it is. Well, Ray, we've been at it almost an hour already. And what was it? Was it last week?
We've been an hour. I like it.
Was it last week we went almost 2 hours?
2 hours last week. Yes, sir.
That was
a long one.
That was a long one. It was a good conversation, though.
No, it really was. Yeah, guys, if y'all didn't see last week's, highly recommend y'all go back and look at it. The YouTube videos on there, all about the drone cleaning. We had just two people a lot smarter than us out there speaking of Idiocracy. So
and the week before that was Wesley Bloom, and that was a good conversation.
Yeah.
Next week is all going to be about how Dougie Doo loses at poker lately.
Is that trend still happening?
No, I haven't played in a little while. I've been wanting to go play. So much has been happening. I haven't had the chance. So actually, the last time I went out, I think that was when I took 7th place.
Nice.
Out of 160 or something like that.
Took 7th place out of 7. And
Now it's like 160 players, but yeah, I've been not running good, so can only win things.
That's nice. That's good to hear from a 2 hour super interesting from an Air Force guy, nonetheless, too.
Yeah. And it brought out some good points. It was good.
I mean, I can usually tell how good our shows were by how much you and I talk about them all week long, and I think we've talked about that show every day this week that you and I have spoken, something about that has come up. Yeah. So it's quite interesting.
We're looking at things in that realm even.
I mean, it's they're definitely here to stay. They're
not going anywhere.
They're here to stay. I didn't even mention, I've always said one of the areas where that can really, really be used. Michael, get this, beachfront. I mean, how many beachfront, the Panama cities, the all along the East Coast, where we've got these super high 15, 25-story buildings along the beach that desperately need to be washed off, but they're literally either on a pool patio on back or built on sand on back, and you're not getting a lift onto there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But the problem that you run into with those, like we discussed, is that the drone itself, although it can fly that high, it can't carry the payload of the hoses and all that.
Right. Well, I think what you're going to have to do on that is marshal from the roof.
Right.
Marshal from the roof and go down.
Yep.
It's the electrolytes. Yeah. So they're watering part of is they're watering all of the crops, so they're getting into a food crisis on that movie Idiocracy.
Mm-hmm.
They're watering everything with Brawndo, which is basically Gatorade, and the whole tagline is it's got electrolytes. So and the food's not growing because they're watering it with Gatorade, you know. And the only thing water is used for is to put in a toilet, you know. So Luke Wilson then goes and recommends, well, we should put water on it. And everybody's like, ooh, that's what they put in toilets. You wouldn't want to water plants with what they put in toilets. And sure enough, water worked on the plants and not the thing.
And that's how it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think water towers, a good niche on that is water towers. It really is a perfect niche on that. And Doug, we were talking about something else where there's not a lot of people around. What's something tall without a lot of people?
Water towers is something that, and let's see, tall without a lot of people around. The new windmills and all that, wind turbines.
Yeah, but there was something else that I was speaking of. I was talking to Rich about it today, and now I'm having the brain fart. And I can't.
Not a lot of people around. Cell towers.
Yeah.
I know where you're at. I just can't think of it.
Well, it was a specific type of building as well that we were discussing, but, you know, something where there wouldn't be people coming in and out of it and going, you know, problems. But, you know, that's one of your problems you're going to have with the drones is people thinking, well, this is a safer way to wash, and then not maintaining public control and having dodos walk up into your area. I mean, I actually think it might even be more important to control the people more so than even washing out of a lift at this point on there, because, you know, God forbid you have the gawkers that are going to sit there and stare at it and happening.
So
yeah,
this question here,
bridges would be a very good one. Oh, that's right. Overpasses, overpasses and bridges would be very, very good.
It keeps things keep jumping around here. Jeff says, here's a question. Do you guys miss hands-on washing at all?
Every day of my life.
Yeah. I can tell you it is who we are. At the heart, I am a washer. I am still a washer. And it is probably, I quit smoking years ago, and I thought that was hard. I've had more withdrawals from washing than anything else. And we went on vacation and we were up at Mount Rushmore, and I'm like, man, who did they hire to wash this concrete? And, you know, just nitpicking stuff apart everywhere we go. And my wife's like, I thought this was over. I'm like, no.
Tanya tells me all the time, Ray, you don't wash anymore. Stop it. And I'm like, I can't help it, honey. I just cannot help it. You know, I was so happy whenever I sat here and did this, you know, and I got to do that job with Crystal Clean. And I subbed out this dorm for them, and it was just absolutely amazing. This was at the end of May, so just about a month ago, and I was thrilled. I mean, it was great. It was absolutely great because I realized I still had it. I was still, you know, could still manage crews. I could still, you know. Oh, it was just amazing, and put a lot of video in the can on that, and you know, it was a nice size project as well, and just, you know, it was a very challenging technical project, but I felt like I was just right where I had never ever. I had never forgotten and left off on there. Mm-hmm. Just amazing, you know?
So the whole thing about the prison towers and doing those with the drones, those are absolutely a gold mine. They're a moneymaker. The reason that they're a moneymaker isn't from the actual washing, though. It's from the excess delivery inside the prisons. That's where the real money is. Ray is too off into something else looking at his pictures. I can see him scrolling through it.
No, well, yeah,
Totally,
actually, right here.
he didn't even care that I threw that joke out there. He's just like scrolling.
I'm sorry. I want y'all to see, like, and you know, so as I'm watching this, look at the turbo tip marks on this
you can't
on this project here, you know, that we uncovered. I mean, it's just turbo everywhere all over this. And you know, whoever washed in there before was just, I'm sorry, Doug, you made about the prison towers. What was, please tell me your joke.
Never mind. It's gone now.
I just missed it, huh? Those turbo scars, yeah, you could get in there and bead blast that. You'd probably be better off to try to even it up with a green tip, honestly, and just go, you know.
Yeah, it's once it's defaced like that. I mean, and you're never going to ever get it truly right. That is a true restoration job that needs to happen, and that would be an expensive restoration.
It would, you know, and people realize, I mean, this concrete, I'm sure modern concrete's probably a lot stronger than that precast is there. And that precast is probably 30 years old at this point on there. And it's weathered and it's
you would almost, in order to actually make that come out right, you would probably need something like I'm going to say more like a terrazzo type grinder. You know, you'd have to actually grind everything down back to its because the turbo nozzle has eaten away at it. And so you've got to be able to eat it all down to be even and flush with each other and not go too deep on one part and another. That would be next to impossible on some of that. So, man.
Well, and you'll never get it back to its original, what it was, just because of it being 30-year-old concrete that's out there in the open and doing, you know, where it is, because that concrete, the face of that concrete is nothing like it was whenever it was originally built, because it's had 30 years of weathering on there. And, you know, what I'm looking for right now is Montgomery Hall. And I remember it like it was yesterday, even though it was probably 4 years ago. You know, and I want to show you this. And
the problem with like doing a thin layer over the top of that, you know, is at first it's got to stick to it, which it can. But I've seen where, you know, thin layers, if they're not done, even, you know, spending a lot of time, money, and effort on them, can still end up with spalling if it gets any kind of crack in it at all, and the weather, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then it's never going to look the same ever.
Mm-hmm. You're right. And then you do the spalling. So I'm going to turn the volume down here because I have no idea what I said on here. So okay. So add to stream. So look at this building, and this was a building that was, I want to say this is more of like a 50-year-old building at Florida State, right? Oh, yeah. So that part that I just touched here that's the outside, and you see how
rough,
how rough and uneven that surface is, right? Mm-hmm. That's not from pressure washing. That's literally from the limestone getting weathered by algae and the earth, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So watch whenever we go inside the archway where it's not getting weathered and rained on, okay? You actually see the original mill marks on that limestone in there. And
this can happen even so, like in the freezing climates,
right?
Where and like this happens with brick a lot of times in some of the freezing climates where the moisture gets inside and then it freezes, mm-hmm. and that expansion breaks it out and gets all that spalling to happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and this is what I mean. this is literally what, so algae being a decomposer, algae's just doing its job. And this is, look at these rosettes along in here where I'm pointing at on there. I don't know if you can see the mouse or not, but where the water collects and drips off those rosettes, it has eaten away that surface along in there, and it'll never look the same. And it's eaten it away a pretty,
it's the
like a
Grand Canyon
16th of an
effect.
inch in there. Yeah, it is. I mean, and it's literally just this water and the algae doing its job. It's why we're not all living in you know, no, they did not waterproof it after I cleaned it up nice. That would have been a good time, but nope. You know, if it wasn't for this stuff, Doug, I mean, we'd be living, if it wasn't for algae, we'd be living in, you know, 1,000 foot deep in dead trees and leaves and pebbles and sand. So, all right, my friend, we are now 12 minutes over. You about ready to kill it for the evening?
I am. I'm dog tired too. Getting ready to see everybody at the Huge.
Woohoo! Big fun. I like it. Wash on, guys. Thank y'all for joining us tonight, and we'll see y'all next week. Oh, hey, Charlie. Bye, Charlie.
Hey, Charlie. Bye, Charlie.
See you next week.